Have you always wanted to be an egg donor but read a lot of scary stories on the internet about crazy complications? Well, stick around and I'll explain. Hey, it's Kathy Bernardo here from the Northeast Assisted Fertility Group. In order to understand complications about egg donation, to really understand what egg donation is and the biology of it. Any woman who does IVF on her own, just regular in vitro fertilization on her own, and an egg donor, they go through the exact same thing. Now, there are about 50,000 IVF cycles in the United States every year, and this isn't counting all over the world. There are many more. And there are about 15,000 egg donor cycles every year. So this is a very, very common thing. So let's just go back and go over the biology of egg donation. So when you ovulate, you release a number of eggs. Typically, only one egg comes to maturity and all the other eggs released that month just die. And if that one egg that comes to maturity doesn't get fertilized, you get your period. Now, when you're an egg donor or a woman who does IVF with her own eggs, you still will release the same number of eggs. But now, instead of just one egg coming to maturity, anywhere between 5 and 20 or so will come to maturity. And this is a result of a course of medication they'll have you on for about 12 days. Now, they monitor you during these 12 days to make sure how you respond. They look at your ovaries, they measure your hormone levels, and they'll adjust the medication throughout depending on your response because everyone responds differently. And during the retrieval itself is a procedure that takes about 15 minutes. They go in vaginally with a long skinny needle. Using the sonogram screen to guide them, they puncture each follicle and aspirate the fluid out of each follicle. So this is an ovarian cyst aspiration. That's what the retrieval process is. If you ever knew anyone who had an ovarian cyst operated on, this is what they do. Now, during the monitoring and the administration of the drugs and during the retrieval, it's very rare to have any complications. But the most typical complication, the one that everyone hears about, is ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And what happens during that is after the retrieval, the fluid can build back up in those little follicles. And so that's why ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome kind of kicks in 2 or 3 days after the retrieval because it takes a while for that fluid to build back up. And then in that case, you would get very bloated, you may get pain, and it's just uncomfortable. And most of the time, the symptoms are pretty mild. And there's really nothing you can do except rest and painkillers until all the fluid, flushes out on its own. In fact, most donors who experience hyperstimulation go on to donate again anyway. It isn't that bad. Now, if it's more severe, you could have vomiting and nausea and, just a lot of bed rest, and there's really not much you can do other than rest. They may give you a sonogram to make sure everything looks okay, but that's pretty much the extent of it. Now, I have seen a lot less hyperstimulation now that they generally give a suppressant when they trigger you. So that's all very complicated, but they're getting much better at controlling hyperstimulation, and I've seen over the past few years a lot fewer cases, and the ones that have happened were a lot less severe. So when you read these scary stories, I don't really know where they're coming from. If you're working at a very good clinic where you're screened to make sure that you're qualified to be a donor, you're monitored, and everything's done properly, the chances of complications are extremely diminished. And remember, when you're an egg donor, they treat you as a patient at that clinic. They're not going to put you in danger. If they see that there's any issue, they'll cancel the cycle or you won't pass your screening. So when you read a scary story, it's almost always something was not done correctly. So I hope now that you understand what ovarian hyperstimulation is and where it's coming from and the biology of egg donation, I hope you feel more comfortable with the process. Now, of course, egg donation is not for everyone, but if you want to do it, it's really nothing to be afraid of. So I hope this was helpful. Please put any comments below. Please subscribe to my channel and go to assistedfertility.com for more information about being an egg donor and an application. Thanks so much for watching.